On this episode of Three Black Guys with the Mic, we talk about the importance of health. One of the hosts of Three Black Guys with the Mic recently had a health scare, and it brought to our attention that making sure that men, especially black men, go to the doctor. So on this episode of Three Black Guys with the Mic, we talk about the importance of health.
First of all, let me tell you something. Lamont is just full of
Sometimes my mama said, when you don't have nothing nice to say, you should be quiet.
People say that Stephen A. is a coon. You agree with that? Everybody got quiet on that one? Okay. Go ahead.
Rudy Giuliani practices voodoo. So he put a voodoo hex on my girl, Hillary, and that's why she got woozy. And the Secret Service had to prop her up and put her in the van.
But take us to a break, my dude.
It was voodoo, son.
I don't know about that voodoo.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is Three Black Guys with a Mic. Other value meals give customers a handful of side items. Bunch of fries in the bag. But Wendy's 4 for $4 is set in 2018 on fire. Hashtag value goes. Wendy's created the 4 for $4 to give customers the best meal in America for only $4. And we thank you because the response has been sick. It's March, so March Madness is in full effect. So head over to Wendy's and get a 4 for $4. Now you can choose from 8 fresh tasting options. Double stack, crispy chicken sandwich, grilled go wrap, junior bacon cheeseburger, crispy chicken BLT, a junior cheeseburger, spicy go wrap, or a junior cheeseburger deluxe. All those options for you. Plus nuggets, fresh fries, and a drink. You can't beat it for $4. Plus, it's always fresh, never frozen, at a participating Wendy's. Offer not valid in Alaska and Hawaii. Now, let's start the show.
Spud, can I ask you a question, sir?
Sure.
We had a little text conversation, and you said that there's a possibility that we may have a doctor come on soon.
Yes, Dr. Chapman.
Dr. Chapman. And, I want to set this up as a conversation because I know both of you all, shared some concern and some stern words with me when I shared with you. I had my own medical scare it's been a week or so ago. And I want to talk about it because I think it's important. Do you gentlemen mind me sharing a little bit about what it means to get your health checked on?
The show starts right now.
Okay.
Go.
Because I was going to share it any damn way. Lamont.
I'm so confused. This is so not a show. You know what I mean? We're not fleshing topics out. Ain't that what he said, Spud?
No, we're not flushing topics. Oh, this is the topic. I'm sorry. Health.
Yeah.
Black men health. I'm sorry. Health.
Okay, cool.
There you go. Black
Cool.
men and health.
Okay.
There you go.
So, and this is just real. And I don't know how else to say all these things. I hope you all don't feel some kind of way. So on Monday, a week ago or so, I guess this would have been the last Monday of the month of February. The last Friday of February, or maybe it was, I don't know, whatever day it was. And I went to work and I got to the office and I went to the bathroom and I noticed that I had blood in my stool. To try to put it as politely as possible. And in fact, as I looked in the toilet, it looked like I had poured a bottle of Cabernet into the toilet. And it scared the hell out of me. It was a lot of blood, and I was really confused. I felt fine. I didn't have a fever. I didn't have any pain. I didn't have any kind of symptoms other than obviously I saw blood, and it really scared the shit out of me. And I tried to ignore it at first. I tried to, maybe it was something I ate, or maybe it was, it was all kinds of things. And I'm 47 this year, which puts me close to that time frame. They say like 50, you're supposed to get a colonoscopy. But at 46, going on 47 in a few months, I started to think like, this is a young age. And I don't know what this means exactly. I got all this blood in my stool, but I'm really concerned. But because I'm a proud man and stupid, I suppressed it. I went through the whole rest of the day thinking it's going to be okay. I don't want to really say nothing. I don't want to go to the doctor. I'm going to be fine. And in fact, I took my daughter to see Black Panther at 7:00 that evening. So I ignored it from 9:00 to 7:00 in the evening. At which point, after we got out of the movie, I just felt terrible. My stomach was hurting. I was having all kinds of other pains. I hadn't eaten because I was afraid to eat because I was seeing all this blood in my stool. I go to the hospital, and eventually they get me checked in, and it turns out that I had a tear in my intestine, and they couldn't get the blood to stop. They couldn't figure it out what to do, but eventually it did stop on its own. And I say all of that to say this: look, man, at this age or at any age, symptoms like this, any kind of thing like this, Black men, we got to get this checked out. We got families. One of the things I also had to think about is like my mother, if for instance, is in her mid to late 70s now. Like, I'm her caretaker in a few years. When my mother can't drive or do certain things in a few years, when she starts to slow down, if I'm not here, I can't take care of her, let alone take care of my daughter or be a part of this show. So, this is for me to you two, but to all Black men, all people. Yo, it's time to really give a lot of thought to taking care of your health if you're not doing so. And it's not, these kinds of things where you have to, go on an all grain diet and, give up all the different food products that happen to be bad. It doesn't have to be drastic. It's pay attention to the signs, pay attention to the symptoms. And don't be embarrassed because I'm bleeding I'm bleeding when I go to the bathroom, and I got blood coming out of my rectum, and my manhood and my ego and my, not trying to be, too vulnerable. All I kept thinking is they're going to think I'm gay, or they're going to think I've been involved with some kind of weird sex or whatever. And that prevented me from getting checked out for 12 hours or so when I should have been, I had all these other things on my mind when I should have just been at the hospital getting taken care of. So I hope that we get a good chance. I'm sorry, your doctor's name that's going to be able to come on, Spud, is?
Dr. Chapman.
Dr. Chapman. I hope Dr. Chapman comes on and can share with us some other tips and tricks to really be ahead of your health and be managing that properly. And I just hope that, this scare for me really woke me up, and I hope that it's a wake up call for others that you don't have to go through what I went through.
I mean, what do you say after that, man? I mean, shout out to my doctor, Dr. Swaby. You know what I'm saying? And I think what you said was on point, man. I mean, I don't know, how do we say this? I'm probably only about a good 10 years of really rocking out with, my primary care physician. And when I said it, I mean, I went to the doctor before sparingly, but like now it's like, that's my man. You know what I mean? Like I had to learn, we all need to have a personal, I think as Black men, a personal relationship, with our doctors. And I found out for me that, I enjoy going to the doctor now because it's somebody that's very similar to myself, African-American male. We kind of have the same backgrounds and histories. He kind of, I'm able to relate to him. So I think what you said, man, is, definitely on point. You're right. You scared me as Spud. So I need you to get that shit together, my brother. You know what I mean?
What were the signs, though, man? What were the signs?
Yeah.
The signs were, I went to the bathroom and I looked down and there was a bottle of Cabernet in the daggone toilet.
Oh, so there was no signs before then?
I had no signs, no symptoms of anything. And it scared the life out of me. And I like I said, I was hoping that it was a fluke. It was just going to kind of go away or, whatever. And I remember 2 years ago going to get my physical, and my doctor, a lot of people call it the finger wave, wanted to give me the finger wave. And I was like, don't do that. Don't do, and all uncomfortable. And this is what really brought it home for me when I realized that this was serious. When they had looked at the CAT scan and they couldn't find where this bleeding was coming from, and they couldn't quite explain it. And every day, so what happened, I was in the hospital from Friday to late Monday afternoon. So that's a good 3 days or whatever, right? 3.5 days. And they were like, okay, look, your blood, your hemoglobin, there's something called your H&H, was some level, was like 14 is a really good number. And I came into the hospital like 13 point something. And that was like, okay, that's not bad. 14 is where we would like to see you, but 13 is okay. But what we'll do is we'll check your blood every 6 hours and we'll see where we are. And so, 12 hours later, they were like, well, you went down to 12, but look, if you go under 9, then you're going to need a transfusion, but you probably won't go under 9. 6 hours later, like, okay, you had 11.2, and we're not really that concerned if we can get the blood to stop. And then before you know it, when I was at like 9, and they were like, all right, so listen, we need you to sign these papers about you don't have any religious objections about receiving blood. And I was like, shit, I'm about to get a blood transfusion. That's when it was real. And then I asked the doctor, I said, what do you think it is? And he was like, well, we're trying to rule out things like cancer. And then that's when, it got real. I had to hit my knees right there. It took a minute. Right then I was at my most vulnerable state. And I was like, we talking about cancer, maybe? We were talking about a blood transfusion. I needed some answers. I didn't know what it was. They didn't know what it was. The CAT scan didn't show anything. And I didn't feel bad. I didn't have any. I felt great. My stomach was a little upset. Like maybe, you had eaten something that just didn't agree with you. But, I didn't feel bad. And when they said we're going to have to give you a blood transfusion if you go below this 9, and we think it may be cancer, so we're sending your CAT scan over to the oncologist. And for those who don't know, the oncologist is the cancer doctor. That's when it got real. And that's when I was scared.
And it was, what did they diagnose you as?
Well, in the past, I had a bout with something called diverticulitis, which is in your intestines. Diverticulitis is where these little pouches in your intestine, they kind of chew at the food or do something to the food, and they move things along, and they can get sore or inflamed, and that's painful, and it causes like constipation, but I didn't have that. I had an issue with one of those or not one of, but probably several of the diverticuli, which are these little pouches where they got ruptured. And that was what caused the blood. But now, most often they were saying in most cases, that results in, some bleeding. It heals up fast or it goes away kind of on its own, and it's not a lot. But like I said, every time I went to the bathroom and it was, 3 days, it literally looked like I poured a whole bottle of wine in the toilet. Like it was just that much blood, and I was losing a lot of blood, which in turn, me not knowing and me thinking all the time, like I'm healthy, I'm fine. Some of the other things that were occurring were, my blood pressure was way crazy out of whack as a result. I'm losing blood, but I feel okay. But they were like looking at me like, yo, even if you weren't bleeding, we would keep you in the hospital because your blood pressure. At one point, my blood pressure was like 196 over 107. They were looking at me like, you don't have a headache? You don't feel weird? You don't feel lightheaded? I was like, no, I feel fine. So, you got to get checked out, man. You got to get checked out.
Yeah, that's definitely important. The doctor is your friend, and it's really unfortunate, especially when you talk about men. Period. Not just African American men, but especially African American men, but men. Period. I don't know what it is about us that we just feel like we just don't have to go to the doctor. Like that's the last thing we want to do. Like we rather we're not going to the doctor until there's blood in our stool, basically. I mean, that's what we really, and in your case, I mean, you're still not going. I mean, even in my case, when I went to the doctor, when I was diagnosed with having diabetes in 2012, I was like, I could not swallow, and I had an abscess on my throat. I didn't even know, and the signs were there, but I didn't even know. And I had an abscess on my throat. I couldn't swallow, and everything that I was, putting in my mouth, I was just throwing up. And my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she was like, yo, you can either go to the doctor or either I'm going to call the ambulance, but I'm not about to sit here and watch you die. That we not going to do. And I was like, nah, let's not do it, And then even 24 hours after that, again, she was like, look, I'm either you can let me take you or either I'm going to call an ambulance. And I was like, okay, you can take me. And they took me to the hospital, and, they was like, either you got an abscess on your throat, we can either do surgery and cut it out, or either we can keep you and, we can give you antibiotics to, let the swelling go down. And I was like, yeah, we definitely going with the swelling because y'all not about to cut on my throat. But while I was in there, they was like, yo, your blood sugar is like 590. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't even know what that was. Like, I didn't even know what that even meant. They put me in ICU. And bless his heart, there was an African doctor. He kept saying, like, yo, you really got to get your blood sugar down. And I was like, I kept writing notes to my wife to tell him, like, yo, I don't give a and I literally was saying this how arrogant and stupid I was. I was literally writing notes to my wife saying, tell him I don't give a fuck about what he's talking about. All I want to do is talk. Because in my case, my voice has been everything. Like, that's how I make money. I mean, that's been my livelihood all my life, is me talking on the radio or either me doing commercials. And I didn't even understand the seriousness of being diabetic, right? Like, nobody ever taught me about, being a diabetic. It didn't run in my family on my mom's side or anything of that nature. And then finally I started doing research about it and understanding, like, yo, this is really serious. And then I look at a lot of, like, my radio colleagues, Doug Banks and, even Dr. Dre from Dr. Dre and Ed Lover, right. Totally blind, Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock, diabetes. I mean, Fife, diabetes. I mean, Doug Banks died, diabetes. And I'm like, yo, I got to get this together. Like, I can't be walking around here with one foot. Like, this can't happen. But not knowing is the wrong answer. And I know that, in most black men's cases, and especially black people, period, because they don't have insurance, that's one of the things that keeps them away from going to the doctor. And that's why, in my opinion, the Affordable, Care Act is, is important, because that, and we've talked about this on this podcast before, it gives people, poor people, the opportunity to be able to afford to go and see a doctor. To take that away is just ridiculous, but that's a whole other conversation. But it is important for, all men, all people. Man, you got to see, you just don't. I even tell my son, he's 26, like, dude, you can't play around with those things, because most of the time we go, and by the time we go, it's too late.
Right. There's another part of it too. That's a hard discussion to have, is mental health. As black men, as black people, we don't see mental health as an issue. Like, we don't, I remember growing up and everyone said, oh, black people don't commit suicide. Black people, we ain't got time to be depressed. We got to move forward. It's nothing wrong. You should not be ashamed to take full advantage of whatever benefit package you got. And if that means that you need to get your teeth worked on, get your teeth worked on. That means you need to get your diabetes checked or get your blood sugar right, get your eye exams and whatever, get that. And it also means, don't be afraid to say that you need some help. Having challenges where mental health is concerned And that doesn't mean that you're crazy. It means sometimes you get depressed, or maybe sometimes you don't understand how you feel. There's nothing wrong with copping to that and saying out loud, like, yo, I need some help and I need to sit down and talk to somebody. And lots of people do it. And we are, at the end of the day, black, white, or whatever the case may be, we're just humans. We're just men. I'm only a man. And it can befall anyone that you could find yourself in a scenario where depression can set in or where confusion can set in, and you need to be able to express yourself and get it out. And quite honestly, I look forward to Mondays when we tape the show. It's my favorite way to talk out a bunch of stuff. I take on a lot of crap from the both of you guys, and I give you guys crap, and that, it's like it's a release.
The crap. More of the you give us the crap than we give.
Shut up. First of all, this is my time. This is my this is a show now. This is a show.
Reclaim your time, sir. Reclaim your time, sir. Reclaim your time.
But I'm gonna stop talking. But I just want to encourage people to, don't suffer in silence. Don't let your health suffer. Don't let your mental health suffer. Don't be embarrassed. There are some things that are uncomfortable to deal with, but once you open up the door, it gets easier. And you can really work to saving your own life.
Kumo D, go see the doctor.
What you got to say negative about that, Lamont? What you got to say about me now? Man?
I mean, I don't think it's negative, man, but I do. But no. Listen, give me a minute. Give me a minute. We gave you the floor. We're glad. Even though I'm still upset with you, my brother, because what you did is you lied to us. You lied to two black guys, because when you spoke to us, and I want everybody listening to hear this part, you made this.
Tell them how you feel, son.
Yeah, like you made this seem like this was a walk in the park. It was nothing to worry about, and this is the first that I'm hearing of the severity of the Cabernet analogy, which I'm sitting here thinking like, no, that's not what you presented to us. But we'll talk about that after the podcast. But I do have to agree with you. And I know you all beat me up, and I get a lot of texts and emails and direct messages. I'm always talking about the slavery piece and the white ice and all the other kind of stuff. But I think you're right about the depression part, because I just think about, and we just got to talking about Birth of a Nation, how depressing it could be to live in a world where someone could come into your home at any time and take your wife and then send her back. That had to be something that was like commonplace, amongst people in that come from where I come from in terms of, family tree. Like that was like some real stuff. Like I can really remember my grandfather, even my mother, she told me, is that they were actually in Mississippi 2 towns over when they heard about what happened to Emmett Till. And my grandfather said to me he had to hurry up and get his babies back up to Detroit. To kind of live in that kind of world, you're right. It can drive people to a certain mental state. And I think, over the years, we have not had, the proper outlets in order to address that. So I do agree with you again about, the therapy part, because I do think that's important. I do think we need that, but also think you guys need to be a little bit more understanding when I talk about Santa Claus, because that's still something I'm working through.
That's
you know what I mean?
With your mental health?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I'm still trying to understand, why it took so long for it to be revealed to me that there was no Santa Claus, that there's no Easter bunny, that bunnies don't lay eggs, that there's no tooth fairy. You know what I mean? It's a whole lot of, and then some people trying to figure out this thing about this white Jesus, because they like, well, if white Jesus lived in this part of the world, how could he be white Jesus? But we know that that's a touchy thing, so we'll get on all of that. But again, I think you're right, man. And we're glad that you're okay. And I think you're 150% correct. I'm looking forward to the show when we get the doc on. To talk about some of the things. I know we talk about men of all ethnic backgrounds, but definitely black men. Like you said, man, it's something we got to do, bro. It's like, it's faithful. I go in there, I look forward to them sticking the needle in my arms, because I want to read the reports on what my blood work says. You know what I'm saying? I got it. I can read a blood report like probably better than just as good as a BDS report, because you're right. all of the, information about our bodies is in our blood. And as long as our doctors are pulling the proper reports to read what's in the blood, to look for the proper things in the blood, it tells a lot. And it's very interesting how they're able to do that just off of blood work. And people need to know that. So you're right, man. And I think, it's just, it's something we got to do, bro. You know what I'm saying? So I just want you to know, I say this publicly, I do appreciate you, man. You know what I mean? Pause, but you my man like that. So we're glad you're all right, brother.
Oh. We'll hug it out. We out, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk to y'all again next Tuesday. Right here on Three Black Guys with the Mic.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go, fish dad.
Oh, come on. This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil.
It only takes a moment to make a moment.
Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.